Today we're journeying to the rugged, windswept coast of Scotland, to a tiny, uninhabited speck of land in the Outer Hebrides known as Island Moor, one of the Flannan Isles. It's a place of dramatic cliffs and churning seas, a place that holds one of the most enduring maritime mysteries of all time. We're going to unravel the strange and haunting disappearance of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers. The story begins in December 1900. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse was relatively new, a vital beacon for ships navigating the treacherous North Atlantic. It was manned by a crew of 3 experienced keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur. These were tough, seasoned men, accustomed to the isolation and the relentless power of the sea. Their job was simple but crucial: keep the light burning no matter what. But on December 15th, the light went out. The first sign something was wrong came from a passing steamer, the Archtour, which noted the dark lighthouse on its log as it sailed by on its way to Leith. But due to bad weather and likely a bit of bureaucratic delay, it wasn't until December 26th, Boxing Day, that a relief vessel, the Hesperus, was finally dispatched to the island. On board was the relief keeper, Joseph Moore. As the Hesperus approached Island Moor, an unsettling feeling began to creep over the crew. The island was eerily silent. The usual welcome wasn't there. No flag was flying on the flagpole. No one came down the steep stone steps to greet the boat. Joseph Moore, his sense of dread growing, was rowed ashore. He climbed the cliffs to the lighthouse compound. He shouted the keepers' names. Silence. He found the entrance gate closed, and the main door to the living quarters was also shut. It was all too quiet. Steeling himself, Moore pushed open the door and stepped inside. The scene, he discovered, only deepened the mystery. The kitchen was tidy, but it felt abandoned in a hurry. A half-eaten meal sat on the table, a chair was knocked over as if someone had leaped up from their seat suddenly. The keepers' beds were unmade, and the clock on the wall had stopped. A set of oilskins, the heavy-duty waterproof gear essential for braving the Scottish weather, was still hanging on a peg. This was particularly strange. It meant one of the keepers had gone outside without his protective clothing, into what must have been a furious storm. But where were they? Moore searched the rest of the lighthouse, calling their names, but the only reply was the whistling of the wind. The men were gone. Vanished. He quickly returned to the Hesperus to report the bizarre findings. The ship's captain, James Harvey, then ordered a more thorough search of the island. The men combed every inch of the small, rocky outcrop. They found no trace of Marshall, Duckett, or MacArthur. It was as if the island itself had swallowed them whole. The official logbook provided the only clues, but they were cryptic and unsettling. The entries began normally, detailing daily chores and weather conditions. Then, on December 12th, the tone changed. Thomas Marshall, the principal keeper, wrote of a severe storm, the likes of which he had never seen in 20 years. He described severe winds and noted that James Duckett was very quiet, and that Donald MacArthur, a famously tough ex-soldier, had been crying. This was shocking. What could possibly make a hardened man like MacArthur break down in tears? The entries for the next 2 days continued to describe the ferocious storm. The men were praying, huddling together, even as the waves crashed over the 150-foot cliffs and battered the lighthouse tower itself. The final entry, on December 15th, simply read, "Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all?" And then, nothing? The logbook was blank after that. The strangest part? There were no reported storms in that area between December 12th and 14th. The weather on the surrounding sea was calm. So what storm were the keepers writing about? Was it a localized freak weather event or something else entirely? The official investigation, conducted by Robert Muirhead, the superintendent of the Northern Lighthouse Board, concluded that the men had likely been swept away by a freak wave. The theory went like this. A large wave washed over the western landing platform, damaging a supply crate and some equipment. 2 keepers went down to secure the rest of the gear. When they didn't return, the 3rd keeper, forgetting his oilskins in his haste, ran out to help them, only for a second, even larger wave to crash over the platform and sweep all 3 of them into the churning sea. It's a plausible explanation. The sea around the Flannan Isles is notoriously violent and unpredictable. Evidence of storm damage was found on the western landing, with a supply box smashed and iron railings bent out of shape. This theory would explain the overturned chair, the abandoned meal, and the single set of oilskins left behind. It paints a picture of a sudden, frantic emergency that ended in tragedy. However, many people find this official explanation hard to accept. Why would all three experienced keepers go out together, breaking a cardinal rule of lighthouse keeping that one man must always remain on duty inside? And why would they venture out onto the exposed landing during a storm so violent it was making a tough man weep? The logbook entries also remain a puzzle. If the weather was calm in the surrounding area, what was the dreadful storm they were describing? Naturally, with such a baffling mystery, wilder theories began to emerge. Some whispered of a sea serpent or a giant seabird carrying the men away. Others suggested a more human element. Perhaps a fight broke out among the three men trapped in close quarters, leading to a tragic outcome where one man was killed and the other two, consumed by guilt, threw themselves into the sea. There were even rumors of a ghost ship whose crew came ashore and took the keepers. And of course, in the modern age, speculation has turned to the paranormal and even extraterrestrial abduction. Did the keepers witness something they weren't meant to see? The strange log entries about a storm that didn't exist have fueled ideas that they were describing something supernatural, a force beyond our understanding. Could the storm have been a metaphor for a terrifying event unfolding on the island? For over a century, the fate of Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur has captivated our imagination. It's a story that speaks to our primal fear of the unknown, of the immense and indifferent power of nature, and of the profound loneliness of isolated places. The official verdict is a tragic accident, a testament to the dangers faced by those who keep the lights burning along our coasts. But the inconsistencies, the strange logbook, and the complete lack of any remains leave the door open to endless speculation. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse was automated in 1971. Today it stands empty, a silent monument on a lonely island, forever guarding its secret. The wind still howls around its stone tower, and the waves still crash against its cliffs, but the mystery of what happened in December 1900 remains unsolved. Were they victims of a freak wave, a moment of madness, or something far, far stranger? We will likely never know for sure. The ocean keeps its secrets well. What do you think happened to the lighthouse keepers? Let me know your theories down in the comments below.